back to Online Darts, everyone. Here we are. The people have asked, and we give them. We've got Matt back in the chair. Matt, first of all, it's been a busy time for yourself. How's tricks?
It's been very busy, actually, in terms of everything I've been doing in darts at the moment. So it's been media commitments with commentary, getting back into a little bit of playing as well. And I've been at home, I think, for about 5 days in the last 6 weeks. So I'm living the Phil Barnes lifestyle at the moment.
Out of the suitcase. Back to playing, first of all. How is the injury, and what was the injury for those that don't know?
Okay, so it was a wrist issue, which originally flared up around about 2016. The problem is, when you're on the Pro Tour, you can't stop. Look at Nathan Aspinall, great example, who had a problem, but just kept going, and he was like, well, I'll just try and treat it and maintain it as long as, because I don't want to lose my ranking. At the time, I'm in the top 64 in the world, I'm getting into the World Championships, you can't stop. And the problem then is it grew into more, it became a nerve damage issue, so it's sort of on the ulnar rotation, when the hand turns, that's when I'd get the pain on the inside of the wrist, but also I'd start to lose power in the arm, because the nerve would trap. So I ended up to the point where I couldn't feel the dart in the hands, I couldn't release the dart. It was hard work. It took me about 30 to 45 minutes just to be able to get the height of throwing 20s in that preparation time. So when I lost my card, it was like, I didn't want to admit it to start with. I was like denying myself. I'm like, no, I'll go and get it straight back. And I just missed out, which actually was a bit of a blessing, because then when I lost sort of that positioning, it was like, oh, now I can go get this looked at. And I went and got it looked at again, and they was like, how can you even throw darts? You are that badly damaged. So it was like, there's surgery that's available for this. They said it's an 18-month recovery process. No one's going to come back after 18 months. So I was like, right, what's the other options? So they went like shockwave therapy, physio, chiros. Very, very expensive process when you're putting all those things together, and you've got to do it privately because the NHS won't touch it. So you're doing all that privately, so it's very, very expensive. So I've been doing that since about August last year, and it was when going forwards. I think we had a chat a few weeks ago. You said, how is it going? I went, it's stable.
Yeah.
It's not better, it's stable. And when I said it was stable, I'm like, right, I've got to see what this translates to in darts. How can I play darts? So I entered the Iceland Masters and the Iceland Open, and I entered the Super Series. Those are two things, and I said at the end of that week, after 2 tournaments and a Group B campaign, I will know where I stand. At the time of filming this, we've done Group B. I've just won that, and I've also won the Iceland Masters. The same day, I text a friend of mine at 11:30 during the group stage, so it was a group stage and a knockout, and I text a friend of mine at 11:30 in the morning, which said I was finished. So I can't feel the dart in my hand, I'll finish my obligations, and then after the Super Series, I'll announce that I can't play darts no more. And I'll go get the surgery, because it affects your life. I can't carry a bag of shopping in my right hand because of how it pulls on the arm, so I've always got to carry it in the left. And you know, I could be pushing a suitcase around the airport, and after a while I can't do it no more. I can't even just push the suitcase around. So I was like, I can't do this. But the darts I've thrown have been extremely encouraging, and now it's like, well, maybe I can do a part-time schedule. I certainly can't get to do a full-time schedule. I certainly can't go and do the rigours of the PDC tour and the expectations. It's not just the darts you're playing, it's the darts you need to prepare to get you to the darts that you're playing. The hours that you have to put in at home and going and practicing with different people, that's what I can't commit to right now. But I could certainly commit to a part-time schedule. I could certainly go do some of the WDF events. I could certainly play in the Super Series, and there's one thing about this that I'm really enjoying it, because I feel like it got taken away from me and I feel like I lost it. And I mentioned in an interview the other day that to some people they'll sit and go, it's just a game of darts. I've sacrificed my life for this for the last sort of 16 years to miss out on my children growing up, and so many different sacrifices that I've had to make just this past few weeks, for example. Like I say, I've been at home about 5 days, spending time with family or parts. They've sacrificed as well. We're all in it together. So it's a battle, but at the moment I'm coming out on top of it. And I'll just say that the future's looking good, but it's looking short. This isn't going to be a long-term thing. This isn't me going, right, I want to come and try and get a tour card again. I think that's in my past. I think that's more where I was. I'm loving commentating, I'm loving the media side, I'm loving seeing what I can do in relation for darts. I've got a sports science degree, qualified in sports psychology. I'm helping a lot of people in darts, and I'm part of a lot of the development and processes that are going on in darts at the moment as well. So I really am passionate about that side of things, and that's what I long-term want to pursue, but I also feel an obligation. As you mentioned, people ask for this interview. People want to see that people are getting into this journey and they want to see a reward or a payoff. And I don't want my last sort of big moment to be on board 14 in Barnsley Metrodome in a corner somewhere. I want to know when that moment is. It's kind of, that's the romantic in me sort of thing. I want to know when it's coming, I know when it is, and I want it to be sort of when I'm ready for it rather than it being taken away from me. And with that, when I know when that's coming up, and in my head at the moment, who knows how it's going to pan out in terms of what goes on with that system, but at the moment I'm thinking it's Lakeside.
So there's loads of bits off of what you said there. First of all, are you ruling out ever going back to the PDC and Q School?
As I sit here right now, yes. I can't do that tour, I can't do that schedule. I would not be able to play all the events. I don't like doing things by halves. If I do something, I do it properly. And I wouldn't be able to do it properly. I'd have to be able to commit, and at the moment, I know it won't last. You know, I get sore after playing, you know, it's not, people will see what's happened in terms of the Super Series and they'll be like, it's played some good darts at times. But I'm going to feel that for days after. That's going to take me time to sort of get over it. And that's not a quality of life I want. I don't want that quality of life where you're living in that sort of pain all the time. So in terms of the PDC at the moment, I'd love to do it. In terms of what I wanted from the PDC, when I started, I wanted to play in the UK Open. That was it. I wanted to play the UK Open. Then it was the World Championships. Then I wanted to keep my cards. I wanted to be a professional player. I wanted to be in the top 64. I did all those. The one thing that was missing out of my bucket list, Winter Gardens World Match Play. I loved that event. But it wasn't to be. I don't think now, looking forward, it is ever going to be. But in terms of what I did there, I'm happy with what I did. You know, I reached the top 64. I sat in there for a minute. The world's a big place. And to be in the top 64 for as long as I was, I'm very proud of that achievement. Yeah, I'd like to have been higher, but I'll take where that was and move on to other things and try and close this out with something good. And like I say, I'm looking more on that WF tour at the moment.
The second bit, you said it's going to be short. How short are we talking here? Because just listening to what you said there, cost, what you have to put your body through, there's only so much anyone can take of this. So when you say short, again, time stamping this as we're recording this, yeah, the Saturday before the Group B final on week 12, how long has Matthew Edgar got left playing darts?
I'm thinking I don't go into 2025. That's how short I'm thinking it's going to be. Because it's not just the years and years of darts. Like I said, I'm one of these people that have to commit to everything. And if I want to do something, I can't just sit back and not do it. If I get an idea in my head like, I'd like to try that, I hate living with regret. And I can't deal with the fact of sitting there at 40, 50 years old and going, I wish I did that. So the wrestling, the MMA, the boxing, all the time compounding on that wrist. So I always say I'm a 36-year-old with the body of a 70-year-old because I've lived a life in the fast lane, so to speak. But I wouldn't have had it any other way. And I really appreciate sort of what I've had there because I'm not going to be able to do that when you get past 40 anyway. So I'm really happy with what's happened there. But it has took away the length of what I can do here. And if anything, it's sad because all the years that I had playing darts, my better years have come towards the end of this journey.
Yeah. And
I just wish it had come a little bit sooner so I had more time with that sort of level of performance where I was able to get into things like the World Championships. But at the moment, yeah, I'm thinking it's short. Things could change. The shockwave therapy is something that, it sucks. It sucks. It's agony, especially when it comes onto the wrist because it's so close to the bone. But that is really being responsive for me. So as painful as that is, if that can give me some more time, then who knows? Who knows? At the moment, I'm realistic, and that's probably the hardest thing to be, because we always like to be over the top. I want to do this, I want to do that, but I can't sit and lie to myself, and that was one of the reasons as well that I say that I really probably can't do Q School, because I also don't want to lie to those people that have supported me and have them sitting on a Saturday watching a Darts Connect or a stream and using up their time to support something that I don't think I'd be able to give back.
As a sportsman, what's that like, knowing that the clock is ticking?
It's hard. It's hard because you don't lose the competitive side. You can learn how to compete, but if you're born with that competitive thing, it never leaves you. And if I didn't do this, there's always a fight to be had somewhere. There's always something for me to do. When I stopped playing darts when I was younger, like I said, I went and did wrestling. Then I started wrestling and I went boxing. And if this all went wrong and I couldn't play, I'd join a dominoes league or something. I'd be playing tiddlywinks. I'd have to find some way to be competitive. I can't deal with that sort of 9-to-5 lifestyle where you go to the place, you leave the place, at the end of the month it's X, and it doesn't matter how good you are at your job, everything sort of stays the same. I couldn't deal with that lifestyle. To me, that would be mind-numbing. Some people really like it. My brother is the total opposite of me. He loves that lifestyle. He thinks I'm bonkers. But yeah, I think he's bonkers. So, because he loves that sort of non-competitive sort of lifestyle just in the business world. And yeah, I just can't imagine not having that. So in some way, shape or form, I'll be competitive in something. So we might get the Edgar TV Dominoes edition or the Edgar TV Tiddlywinks. There'd be something. So
from there, obviously, you still watch darts and you still love the darts. That's the playing side of it done. Premier League coming towards an end. The race for the O2, I would say, is hotting up, but it's not really. The top two have been done and dusted for weeks. Is it 2 from 3 qualify for you, Clayton, Smith or Aspinall, and which one misses out, do you think, as we record this?
Oh, it's a tough one, because I think with the Premier League, I like to go on YouTube and do some prediction videos beforehand and some lives, and I say every week that who do you think is going to win? And it doesn't matter who you say, you've got a chance. And I think the thing with the Premier League is there's no surprise. Whoever wins it, you don't go, wow, what an upset that was. Or if someone goes out first round, you don't go, wow. It doesn't have a wow factor to it. But on the same aspect, I'm not a main event follower. I love the wrestling. I've always been more bothered about the Intercontinental Championship than the world title. I like that belt more than the main event. I've not watched main events before. I've watched the whole card and then turned off before the main event because I don't really care who wins the main belt. So the Premier League's not really aimed at someone like myself, and it's for that reason, because there's no surprise. And whoever misses out of those three, whoever I were going to say, you wouldn't sit there and go, oh, wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And because of that, I don't think it has that same level for me with the Premier League.
A couple of bits from what you said there. First of all, the Premier League, has it lost a bit of spark at the moment? Obviously, you look at numbers as the same as I do, and just your videos within Edgar TV are the same as ours at OD. The Premier League seems to be missing something. That there's not that buzz around the Premier League like there has been, like the World Match Play, that the world is different, but it just seems to be missing something from the fan at home. Yes, for the fan in the venue, it's amazing. They get a tournament and they get a winner each night. That kind of works. But for the casual fan and the fan at home, is it just missing something, do you feel?
Definitely, and ticket sales are down as well. So as much as we say it's for the fan in the arena, it's not exactly that they're filling the arenas like it once would. Now, we are living in a financial crisis at the moment, so we've got to also make sure that we add that in there as well, because that's something that could be affecting this, because ticket sales and exhibitions are down, ticket sales all around on everything, not just darts, are slightly lower due to the cost of living crisis. So we've got to adapt for that a little bit within those numbers. But yeah, it is, and when you look at things like the UK Open Open's been outviewing the Premier League. Even day one where we've got Riley's qualifier versus the PDC number 127 was getting bigger viewing figures than the Premier League. So there's a story there without me even needing to tell the story, because the story's in the numbers.
On the needs a surprise, I look at what boxing's doing, and although I don't like some of it, you've got the Misfits, you've got Logan Paul, Jake Paul, KSI, all throwing their hand in the mix, doing something. I'm not saying that darts needs a Logan Paul or anything like that, but does it just need something than just the standard, we're going to play 501, best of 11 and things like that?
I think it needs, Logan Paul's a great example, it needs somebody who understands how to interact as well with people on that level, because yes, we're putting on a show, but a show is in the entertainment industry. At the moment, darts is fantastic in the sports industry. Nailed it. We've got man versus man, or man versus woman, or woman versus woman in 1v1. We have to have a winner. There's no draw. There's no playing for time. It's attacking person versus person sport. However, we haven't got that entertainment. I was having this chat very recently. I'm going to use an example here that's probably going to get me some flack. Daryl Gurney always gets talked about in terms of one of the top 5 walk-on songs. I'm going to use a wrestling term. What is over? Is it Daryl Gurney or is it Sweet Caroline?
Sweet Caroline.
Take Sweet Caroline and put it on yourself, and you walk on, you get the same reaction. Take Sweet Caroline and put it on, trying to think of a player off the top of my head, Johnny Clayton, same reaction. Stick it on Brian Roman, same reaction. The song gets the reaction, not the player, and because of that, every single player is replaceable. Daryl Gurney goes, okay, we'll just give them Sweet Caroline. It's fine. We'll get the same reaction. Oh, great, what a fantastic walk-on. How can players make it about them, not about the song? Because at the moment, that is what we do. We get to a stage and go, right, let's get Wedding Mega Mix 1996 out, pick a sing-along. Oh, that's the walk-on song, what a great character. That's what we tend to do as players, but no one's understood sort of how to bridge that to make it about them. And the biggest thing I can say is, think of a World Championship match. For 45 minutes, the 2 players on stage are the most relevant person in the world of darts, anywhere. That is the match. And they've got a spotlight on them for 45 minutes. And then after 45 minutes, spotlight moves to 2 other people. When they're stood there in that moment, the spotlight's moved to them because that's the next match. How does that person make people still want to see what they do? When they can work that out, that's when darts will move to a new level. But at the moment, I think it's quite far from that.
It's an interesting way of looking at it, and look, we've spoken about many things to do with this, and there's many tournaments that have been spoken about that just seem to have been canned, or the idea not even bridged. The Ryder Cup one being the big one, and yes, we've got all pairs in the World Cup this year, which is obviously a great thing, but does it just need something to change, just to change the focus?
It does, but again, that puts the responsibility on the PDC. The PDC's job is to lay the table. The player's job is to get on that table and to move things forward and to essentially put more ingredients on the table. And the problem is, a lot of the time we look at the formats, look at the events and go, right, the PDC's got to deal with it, but all they're going to do is just give us the same product in a different format. The players need to evolve as well. The PDC's evolved fantastic. I mean, I remember when I was younger going to the World Match Play at Blackpool, and I'm trying to usher people through the door, and we was on a £45 ticket for the whole week. And they was trying to give tickets away, in you come. And now it's selling out in minutes. And we've got events happening in arenas, we've got a worldwide global brand. The PDC have done their part. It's now up to the players to figure out what that entertainment factor is, and certainly the ones at the top, get out there, hire people that understand this industry, marketing and media, and see what actually can be done here rather than just sticking a walk-on song or a silly wig on your head.
With that though, and I completely get that, but has maybe some of the character and some of that oomph from the players been knocked out of them by huge and potentially sometimes silly DRA fines, not letting them do this?
100%. There's so many times I've done something And people are like, oh, you'll get a letter in the post. I'm like, why? What have I done? It might be controversial, but I've not broken a rule. Someone might not like it, but someone's personal preference is not a finable thing. Just because someone doesn't like something you do doesn't mean you can get fined for it. The only times really that they come in is when you really break those rules or you bring the sport into disrepute. But people are so wary and will toe a line way before the line is. They're towing so far back from where they need to be. And I think in a way that just needs to be put across to the players. And again, dart players, especially the tour card holders, have been there, lazy to this side of the work, because the PDPA do a fantastic job. They go, right, what we're going to do, we're going to put on a meeting for everybody. It's going to be about all these different things. All tour card holders are invited. You'll turn up, there'll be 4 people there. And it'll be on the tour weekend, like the day before, everyone's there already, no one goes. That's where the players need to start taking this advice. If the game's going to go bigger than it is at the moment, that's the sort of feel that we need.
So it's interesting talking about this, and like, I feel that Gezi in particular and Darragh that you spoke about and used to be close and on that edge, and it was great viewing that we saw them fall out in the Premier League and the pullback and things like that. We saw it between Phil and Barney, but like we said, we don't see that anymore. It's almost as if where they spend so much time together, players, they're almost too nice.
I think everyone wants to appear that way as well, and sometimes it looks very disgenuine, and other times people won't say what they want to say. And I'm one of the rare people, I'll say what I want to say, and I know that some people aren't going to like what, even what we're saying now. There's going to be people sat at home about to jump in the comment section calling me names.
Yeah.
I know that's going to happen, but at the same time there's going to be people that go, I really agree with what you're saying here, sort of thing. So the one thing that you'll do is from this interview is you'll agree or disagree one way or the other, and by doing that and by you forming an opinion on what I'm saying, we're all now in something together. Now, whether that means you hope now I never play darts again or I go lose every single game every single week, that's fine as well. You're still following me. So whether you're doing it because you want me to lose or... So it's one of those things where people need to stop wanting the 100% like on things, because what you'll do naturally is if you say the things you want to say and you give your actual opinions on things, the people that are following you and the people that are with you are the people that believe in what you stand for instead of believing in who they think you are.
As Barry once said, all publicity is good publicity. On the Premier League still, having had a chance to dissect it, when the picks came out it was very controversial at the time. Looking back now, do you think they got it right, or do you think they'll be sat at the next board meeting thinking we got that wrong? Because although look, Peter Wright's a double world champion and he's got stuff going on, not produced. Dimitri looks very much off the pace. Chris Stone's actually played very, very well and probably doesn't have the points he deserved. Nathan struggled at times, although he's still in the top 4. Looking in hindsight, did they get it right, do you feel, or do you think there'll be some regret?
I think, honestly, I personally think they got it wrong, but I think we'd still have the same conversation. Someone's got to be bottom.
Yeah.
And in that sort of format, there's always a part of it where somebody underperforms in the Premier League. It happens virtually every year. So whatever they put forward, we'd still have this conversation and we'd go, did they get it right, did they get it wrong? I think whoever they'd have gone in there with, they could have put Luke Humphries in, it might not work for him, and we'd have gone, well, he should have been in because he didn't get to that point of winning the TV title, and he sort of went in beforehand, and all of his big wins was on the Euro Tour, and there'd be people going down that narrative. Whatever it was, there was so much context around the Premier League selections this year that so many people had a potential in. This conversation was inevitable. We're just changing the faces.
The race for Blackpool is hotting up, and there's one name that's on everyone's lips right now, although he's been crashed and burned this weekend in the Euro Tour. Gary Anderson has given all those seeds a huge headache, because I didn't see this coming, if I'm being honest. I've known Gary a fair few years now. I thought he was just going off into the sunset and going to go and enjoy life. But obviously you're close to Ryan Searle as well. There's been a spark that's been lit. We see him winning Pro Tours, going deep. And the fact that one of those 16 seeded players is going to draw in round 1 at the Winter Gardens is a headache, isn't it?
No one's going to want Gary Anderson because he's one of the greatest of all time. It's a term that gets used very loosely, but he is one of the top 5 players that's ever existed in darts.
I'm with you.
And I think the top 5's pretty set, and from there we just rearrange the order. I don't know where I put Gary in that order because I don't like giving my top 5 in an order because it's sort of one of those, but he's in that top 5 players of all time, so no one's going to want to play him. I'm 100% with you. When he played match play last year, I said that's the last match play we see Gary Anderson. I thought we wouldn't see him much this year. The World Championship would come around, he'd play that, and it'd be bye Gary Anderson. And then there's a lot of people say like, I've heard him do an interview where he said he's going to practice more, or I did an exhibition with Gary in about October where he's going to practice more, he's going to take it properly. And the amount of people, I said, but yeah, I've heard Gary say this for 3 years. He's been saying this for years and it never happened, so what's going to be different about it this time? But something seems to be working, and I guess, like the start of this conversation when I said you never lose the competitor that's in you if you're born with it, when he would have got to that point where, okay, this is about to end for me, that would have been the moment where he probably didn't want it to end because he's out of that mode of it all and he probably really enjoys the battle of it. I always say if you're struggling to make a decision in life, if you're going, right, do I go left or do I go right? Do I want the burger or do I want the hot dog? Most people will flip a coin and they'll go heads is hot dog, tails is burger. And you flip the coin most of the time because you feel like it takes the decision out of your hand and whatever it is, I'm happy with the decision. But actually, when you do that, when that coin's in the air for a split second, you're going to prefer one option. You flick it up, the coin will go up in the air and you'll think, I hope it lands hot dog. And if it lands burger, you go, I'm going to get the hot dog anyway because I prefer the hot dog.
Yeah.
Or when it lands hot dog, you're like, oh yeah, I actually wanted that. And when you flip the coin and it comes out of your hands, that coin in the air is Gary Anderson. And while the coin's spinning and flipping in the air, do I go off or do I play? He's decided to play.
It's up after half an hour reset before anyone gets sinister and says, what have you edited out? On that top 5, look, I know it's an interesting debate and who sits where, but we were talking about this on the live lines the other week. If he carries on his current trajectory, is Gerwyn Price going to gate crash that top 5 of all time very quickly?
Yes. Yeah, he's the most logical one. I think Peter Wright, depending what area you're from, if you're quite a modern darts fan, I'm talking the last 5-10 years, you're probably going to say Peter Wright. And you're going to argue a lot for Peter Wright. He's won many titles. He's got a very good case. But I don't think he gets that top 5. So if we went top 10, guaranteed. But I think when we're going top 5, but Gerwyn Price for 2 reasons. 1, his darting ability, and 2, for what he's doing for darts and how big he is to darts. He's the most Google searched dart player by a mile. I'll just rewind quickly to what I said earlier.
Numbers are readily available. And
and also about people who are, whether you want them to win or you want them to lose. Gerwyn Price gets it. Granted, he probably doesn't like the booing all the time, but the thing is, when Gerwyn Price goes on the stage, you've been in the arenas, you know what it's like. Some people boo because it's the thing to do. We actually like Gerwyn Price, we want him to do well. Some people boo because they don't like Gerwyn Price. But the one thing that happens the second Gerwyn Price appears to the second he leaves is people want a result of that match. They want him to lose or they want him to win. Then what happens is 2 other players go on stage and people just want to see 180s, a big shot, they're turning around, they're not really watching the game. And Gerwyn Price is a rarity for that reason. He manages to engage the darts audience. And if more people was like Gerwyn Price, I think darts would be on another level. You had a chat on here with Helen Chamberlain before the World Seniors Championships. And she said, Gerwyn Price is the sort of player that will look back and regret that we didn't enjoy him while he was here, because he's one of those rare people. I couldn't agree any more with anything anyone's ever said about Gerwyn Price. He is someone that we're probably not going to get for long. We'll probably only have him 5, maybe 10 years. I don't see him being one of these players that stay in the game forever.
No.
He'll be 5-10 years and he'll retire quite young. And when he does, It'll be one of those people that after about 3 years go, oh, really wish going price was still
back.
Yeah.
On that, and it's a nice little segue, and I think this was planned. The seniors is flying right now.
Yeah.
But the greatest of all time, Mr. Taylor. We know he's got hip problems and all that, but is it standing out a little bit that he is off the pace because he's not playing enough competitive darts, where the rest of the over 50s that are regularly still playing, whether that's on the Challenge Tour, the seniors, and where a match sharpened and battle ready, like your Leonard Gates, your Richie Howsons.
How much does he want it? That's my question. How much does he want this? And I find it weird to sit here trying to talk about a player who's achieved everything in the game beyond what any of us could do, and you could collect, well, hundreds of us together, we still ain't got the CV of Phil Taylor, and that might be part of the problem as well. He's done everything. I think he wants to win one, but is the desire to win one? Wanting something and needing something are two different things. When Phil played before, it was almost like he needed to beat people, he needed to win this, he needed to do that. Now he just wants it. Want and need are two completely different things. If he really had that desire, I think we'd see him in the Super Series. I think we'd see him doing a few things around it. Look at Kevin Painter, how it sparked him to travel a little bit more, do more events, the preparation, the practice he's been putting in order to play these senior events. He's been having deep runs. Robert Thornton went, no, not going for the tour card no more, that can go, I'm going to focus on this. There's people that have committed to the seniors tour and focused on this for their careers, and I think that's the difference at the moment. It's almost like we've got professional seniors and amateur seniors, and unfortunately at the moment, I want Phil Taylor to win one. I really do. And I think that's probably why sometimes I'm like, looking like, come on Phil, I want to see a bit more. Because I love darts, and I've followed it since 7 years old. I've watched Phil Taylor dominate the sport. I want to see it again. I literally had an opportunity to commentate on a Phil Taylor game during the Seniors World Championship with Richie Howson, and I was sat there with Chris Murphy, and I'm like, I can't believe what's happening here. I'm sat commentating on a Phil Taylor match in a World Championship at the Circus Tavern. It was a moment for me, but I think it'd be a moment for everybody if we all saw Phil lift one of those titles, and I certainly would love to see it, and I really hope it happens.
The ADC, last time we spoke, it was like, this is going well. It's going more than well. Right now, it's really, in the UK especially, it's exploded with the vaults, a passageway here to the Super Series. In terms of the amateur game in the UK, they've really taken the ball by the horns, and that's kind of spiralled. Now we've got ADC Europe just launched,
yep.
Oceanic as well, and it was quite telling that on that opening weekend of the Oceanic one that they picked the ADC over the DPA tour. But in the UK especially, it is thriving right now.
I saw some photos from the events, and not just the amount of players, but the quality of the player that's going to those as well. So yeah, it's really captured the imagination of the ambitious amateur. I'm sure they're working on it. This is probably something that will come out at some point. I'm sure they've already noticed the problem. Needs a payoff.
It's an end game.
Yeah, because at the moment people are going around getting these ranking points. I'm number 6 in the ADC. Okay, now what? Where does that go? They need a payoff as an ADC yearly champion. I know they was going to do the World Open, they didn't want to call it a World Championship, but they need something like that, a yearly champion, because people need something to work towards. And at the moment, you can go to gather all these points, but it doesn't lead to anything.
Yeah.
It can bring you to the Super Series, but the players at the top of the ADC rankings are probably on invitations anyway to the Super Series. So in terms of the ADC, I think for that to come on par with something like the WDF, they need a broadcasted payoff, even if it's just once a year.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'm sure they're working on it. But it's interesting that the ADC is now popping up all over the world, making big strides, and for the amateur that can only be a good thing.
Can never be a bad thing to have more darts, more opportunity, because until not too long ago, we was all sort of dictated to quite a lot in terms of wherever you was playing your darts, and there wasn't a lot of option. If you had a card, you couldn't play anything else. You only had to play where the card was. During the COVID times, there was nothing else, so it's only the tour card holders that was playing as such. It's sort of been two options, and you had to pick which one you had. Well, now there's a third option. Now there's a fourth option. And that might just be the start of it. When you see the ADC and the Super Series getting the level of success they are, the more options that there are, fantastic for darts, fantastic for players, fantastic for the development of the game. You've only got to look at the averages to see that the averages are improving. The equipment's the same, the boards are the same, everything's the same. But what's different is the level of competition that's now available to and the level of access to stages. You used to see players going to a World Championship match, a bit nervous, take them a set or two to settle in. Actually, they've played on the European Tour 6 times throughout the year in front of bigger crowds than what's at Alexandra Palace. So when they get to that, it's not daunting. And same with this, with the Super Series. We've got a stage environment. We've got multiple games in front of cameras. People are not fearing cameras no more or fearing playing in front of these because they're doing it all the time.
We spoke in July last year, the first time we brought this up, about players having a decision to make, especially the lower end player. Now, almost 9 months on, you said before you thought that players were going to have choices to make. You've made that decision.
Yeah.
We've seen Robert Thornton make that decision, Richie Howson as well. I think I mean more players now that have a decision to make because of the amount of darts available and the amount of prize money they could win elsewhere.
Yes. I do think there'll be a reaction to this though. I think the reaction is going to be from the PDC and the management side of things, and I think that there'll probably be either an investment in the tour or guaranteed wages, like we see in the snooker, guaranteed £20,000. I think that could be something that bridges the gap and sort of changes it to make the PDC more of an appealing product for the lower ranked players again, because the PDC need those as well. You can't have 64 world number ones. You need to have a 64, 65, 66. And I saw an interview that was around about 128 players and them saying, well, if you're in the bottom of that, are you really good enough to be there? Well, yeah, you've got a tour card. By your system, I'm the top 128, by the system you designed. But the system can't support the 128 players at the moment. So that's where the decisions have to come in for the players, because 128 players aren't supported. What, say about 50 players? Maybe 60?
The top 64 can make a comfortable living, I'd say.
Yeah.
Not amazing, but comfortable.
So then is the question, should the Pro Tour be 64 players? Because it can't support the bottom 64. And that bottom 64's had to win a tour card in the first place, which is the criteria to the elite level system. And then, okay, you want people to stop working so they can do midweek Pro Tours, but there's no guarantee for going to that. So actually, you'll have a week off work, cost you £400. Then you're going to go to an event that's going to cost you your travel and all your expenses on top. That might be another £300-400. And if you don't win, you're going to come home £700-800 out of pocket before living expenses on top. In a financial crisis that we've got now, have people got that level of money to be able to do so? So what then happens is people then get tied into these sponsorship deals where actually, oh, don't worry, we'll cover all the expenses for you, but we're going to take this big chunk of your money. So when they get that big payday and they go to the World Championship and they win a couple of rounds, they're not getting the money you think, oh, they've got 35 grand, brilliant. No, they've probably got about 15. Then they've got tax. Then all the bits that go on top of that. So yeah, it's a bit of a beast at the moment, but I think the way to resolve that is very much down the line of that guaranteed wage. I think that comes in, and then the PDC becomes everything, because you're instantly a professional player.
Matt, absolute pleasure. We've done about 42 minutes.
Is that all?
That's all. So
we could do another 42.
Oh, we could quite easily. But we'll let you get down and practice and get ready for the final, mate. Pleasure as always, buddy.
Cheers, thanks, Phil.